April is a big time in the landscape, so welcome to the month of April and landscaping every day. Now in April, here's a list of vegetables that you can be planting, and next month we can put out some of the warmer season vegetables, but here's a list of what you do now. So you're going to plant container grown trees and shrubs, and then you can direct seed this list of annuals in your beds, and it's going to save you a lot of money. You can just spread the seed out evenly, keep it evenly moist for 7 to 10 days. Every day you'll have to go out and sprinkle a little water on it, but they'll pop up and you'll have beautiful color. In April, there are a lot of insects that start milling around in the landscape, and we need to start right now inspecting and looking for those. So the aphids are going to be on all the new foliage, and you just need to wash them off with water, and if you have a problem, just use some insecticidal soap and that'll take care of it. If you happen to notice mildew on your roses, then you're going to have to put them on a regular schedule and treat them with a fungicide. But if you plant earth-kind roses, you won't have that problem. Now watch for snails and pill bugs on the bottom side of your foliage for petunias, violets, because they will really do some damage. If you happen to see pill bugs and slugs, then try a little like jar lid and fill it up with some kind of carbonated beverage. A lot of times they say use beer, and then they crawl in and die. And cutworms are going to be busy on everything, so watch for those little eaten avenues or paths that they put into your leaves, and then treat. You can use diatomaceous earth or BT on any kind of worm. And speaking of worms, watch for army worms and then loppers and squash bugs. Once again, mulch all those newly planted areas. Remember, if a weed has to come up through 3 inches of mulch, it's going to be weak and easy for you to pull. Mow once a week. I guess you'll hear that several times this year, and it's going to happen every week from now until our first frost. You'll have to hand water newly planted areas and dry spots. No need in watering the whole landscape unless it needs it. Fertilize newly planted areas right after you see the new growth, and you can use fish emulsion, sea kelp, and a little drop of Super Thrive. And you'll do sea kelp at about a tablespoon per gallon of water. Also, the fish emulsion at a tablespoon per gallon, and just a drop of Super Thrive, and it'll kick it off. And water thoroughly. Now, we've waited to prune our climbing roses, and right after the climbing roses bloom, you're going to go out and prune them. And we're going to take out any dead or diseased wood, spent flowers, and excessive growth. You want to start weeding early in the garden because those weeds are going to be in competition with your vegetables, and we want them to get off to a good start. So start out early. If you can just take a little 3-pronged fork and break up the soil around them, you'll be knocking those weed seeds down before they get started. Also in the garden, be sure to mulch to discourage those weeds. Don't forget, feed the birds. So you know the newest thing is succulents, and we're going to learn how to do a fairy garden, and we're also going to plant these. Are called living stones. Lithops is their botanic name, and you can see that this one is ready to go. You find a decent container. Make sure that they have holes in the bottom. I'm just using a regular potting soil that I've added some sand to. And then you put a little bit. When you're doing containers that aren't just round, you're going to need to fill the cracks and crevices before you plant. And then we're going to take this little baby, and if you see it's a little too tall for my container, that's not a problem. We're just going to gently tease the roots apart. So you see the roots are still on there. And this is a very interesting little plant because its leaves are actually these bumps, and then the new leaves come out of the middle. and they bloom right here. They'll have a little tiny bloom on them, and you really don't have to do much except give them a lot of sun, a little bit of water when they're growing, and they usually grow in the spring, and during the winter they're just practically dormant. You don't need to water them very much at all. Sun is the biggest thing. So we can add a couple of rocks, top dress a little bit, and then how about some little baby mushrooms? Don't overdo it. Just let it be. Because remember, succulents don't need that much water. So we want to make sure that we're not planting them too deep. We want to make sure that we leave a little ledge on the side. This is burro's tail. And so when you're planting a container like this, you want to have your thriller, which is this calancho, your spiller, which is this burro's tail, and then your filler. So we have a filler, thriller, and spiller. And you can see that this one hasn't been potted up too long in this container, but that's all right. It'll do great in here. Succulents are not that picky about repotting. So once again, we want to make sure that we fill all the voids. We don't want any air gaps. And on this burro's tail, if some of these little parts fall off, they'll make new plants. Just throw them on top of the soil. So once you've planted, filling in all those little crevices, cracks and crevices in between them. Notice I'm not packing it down, I'm just pushing it in so that there's no voids. So there's a couple of ways that you can top dress. One is just by using gravel or river rocks. Or let's take it a step farther. This is called sheet moss. And you can buy it, it comes in a bag. You can find it at the craft store. And this, you can see, is the brown side is where it was growing against the soil. And so we're going to put that down, that side down, and we're going to fill in around the plants, just lifting it up a little bit. And now, here's our home. So who's going to live in this house? How about Mr. and Mrs. Hare? You can get as fancy as you want, or you can just put one little piece in. It just adds a little new dimension to your succulents.